Salabed Cargo and Money Transfer bavuddeyo okuwagira Uganda Vision Program. Bakubire simu okumanya ebisingawo ku bisale by'ennyonyi oba ebyokutambuliza ebintu ku mazzi. Tutika containers ezigenda mu Mombasa ne Kampala buli wiiki. Emigugu egya buli kika, amasimu, empapula ez'obuvunaanyizibwa, amamotoka, amaloole. Menya ekindeke ki? Oyina ekintu kyonna ky'oyagala okuweereza e Uganda? Twesige fe aba Salabed. Kubira aba Salabed Cargo and Money Transfer ku simu 0208 884 4060 oba bavune ku website yabwe www.salabed.co.uk. Salabed abeesigwa abalina erinnya eryesigibwa mu bintu byo n'ensimbi. The People's Nightclub, La Face, is the place to be at the weekends. La Face, where it's happening. We have a Kampala night at every last Sunday of the month. We have great DJs. Come, let's party and dance together. Service is first class, fancy atmosphere with all types of drinks and eats. At Club La Feste, former Club Vaults, London, located on 169-1714 Street, Edmonton, N18 2XB. Club La Feste, the People's Nightclub.
And once again, welcome to Uganda Vision on such a cold, windy Monday. I hope you're all safe out there. But I would also like to say, how was your Easter weekend? I'm guessing you all had a wonderful bank holiday. Easter, so many things happened in the Uganda community. Remember, Judith Babide and Pastor Wilson Bugembe had a show in North London. I hear Yakwato Mulido. I hear it was packed. Not forgetting, of course, Club La Feste had Kampala Night, a special bank holiday weekend that also saw a full house of over 600, I understand. I'm hoping you all survived and, of course, you all recovered from that weekend. Before we carry on with the show, I just want to say a big thank you for our fans that have been watching Uganda Vision for a while. Those in Manchester, of course Newcastle, not forgetting Sweden. We really appreciate your support. Carrying on with the program, we're going to catch up with Alice, who caught up with Avasts Housing Limited in Uganda. Housing Limited that actually looks after everything you need as a landlord. They turn into your landlords. They look after your property, but also help you with finding tenants. So if you're living in diaspora, London, Sweden, Newcastle, even Manchester, even here in London, this is the agency to contact right back in Uganda. While you're here in diaspora, working away, they'll be looking after your property. Let's catch up to hear exactly what they have to say.
Welcome, we're in beautiful Kololo. It's a sunny day here, and I'm with Vincent Agaba, who is from Avasts Housing Limited, and we're in Kampala. Tell us about your company, Avasts Housing Limited. When did you start, and tell us what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Thank you very much, Alice, for this invite. Avasts Housing Limited started in 2006. And of course, previously I was living in the Netherlands, and one of the issues which I saw was it was very stringent for people living abroad in diaspora to manage their properties back home. Yeah. So based on that, we said, look, we should go back to Uganda and do real estate management, which involves, taking care of the properties of those people who are living abroad, the corporate community, which is a bit busy, and all those people who do not want to hassle with tenants and also realize value for their real estate investment. So 2006 now, 6 years down on the road, we have a portfolio of over 120 properties we're managing around Kampala. And we think it secures value for money for the real estate investors, such that they are able to have investments that are secure and also at the end of the day giving money on their time.
So do you handle private properties as well as corporate? Is that correct? Or is it? Yeah,
we are in the portfolio of commercial, residential, and of course multi-unit buildings. So we are looking at apartments, we are looking at residential houses, and also office blocks. So what happens is that we do the supervision of the service providers. We collect rent, we do repairs and maintenance, and on top of that we do what we call market and feasibility studies. So assume that you have a plot of land, and that plot of land is vacant, and you are pondering in your head what to build on that property that can bring you value for money. So what Avasts Housing Limited does is that we have a team who does the whole process of getting you a feasibility and a market study so that you can be able to present to the financial institution and even going through navigating the possible financial facilities that you can access at good interest rates in order for you to have that facility.
Tell us about the housing market at the moment in Uganda. What's it like? Is it on a peak? Is it on a low? I mean, traveling through Kampala myself, I've seen quite a lot of buildings going up, even private housing. How's it going at the moment?
Oh, interesting. What I can tell you is that I happen to be the founder of the Association of Real Estate Agents and Managers of Uganda, and I was the first president. Now I act as the CEO for the Secretariat. What we have seen from the last 15 years is that the real estate market has been going upwards.
Yeah.
But of course, that is good news, but at the same time it brings certain obligations to the players. First of all, the cost of finance.
Yeah.
We have had a challenge with the cost of finance whereby the mortgages have been so expensive, but that happens to the origination of these finances. Most of our banks locally here, they get money from the European market, or they get it from the South Africa. And of course, that plus risk, plus administration costs, you get an interest rate going up to 20% or 23%. That does not actually unlock the potential of the real estate industry because the investors will not be able to access and actually afford that kind of cost. So that has been a huge challenge. But again, you have also people who have the middle income who have realized the potential of real estate, and then you see a lot of blocks of apartments growing. So we have a deficit of housing on the market. That is clear, and therefore, housing being a basic need for every humanity, people need housing. So on the rental market, in terms of apartment blocks for middle income, there is a huge demand. Now when we go to the office blocks, we have seen that, of course, the retail space, whereby people need decent office space, but not huge spaces which they can't afford. So the shopping malls, the arcades, they are getting into the play because corporate companies, middle and SMEs, small medium enterprises, need a good decent space to work in. Now when we go to the industrial, that's more of warehousing. We are seeing a lot of agriculture being promoted in the country. So the need for housing space, warehousing space is very important. So we can say that the industry is going up, but again, the other challenge which we are still fighting with in the association, not in Avasts as to say, is the legislation part of it. We are working in an environment whereby there is a vacuum in the legislation. But the point is, the Ministry of Housing, Lands and Urban Development is bringing a lot as far as streamlining the laws that are related to land transactions. So for example, in the past 2 weeks, we've been in a workshop revising all the land laws to make sure that they catch up with the trend today. The Ministry of Housing has already now launched the automated system we call the Land Information System. That will help us to curb down the issues to do with land titling fraud and so forth.
Do you play quite a good role in that then, in the planning and so on, the land laws? That's quite good for real estate to be involved, because I guess you're the one who's on ground and you know mostly what's going on, so you can relay back to whoever's in charge, the minister that's in charge. So do you find that's quite useful, you being involved with that? No,
definitely it's useful, because one thing is that I can concentrate on my company and be there, but at the same time we have to have the market development. Because if my company has to grow, the market must be also appreciating the development. And therefore, we, the players, through our association, we must be able to be up at the forefront to make sure that there is a fair playground. The legislation must be consonant with the investment, because that is what we call investor confidence. If we are looking at getting foreign direct investments, the diaspora guys being abroad and investing in Uganda, knowing that their investment is safe, the legislation must be able to protect their assets. So we feel that at Avasts that it's part of our role to protect our customers' investment by making sure also the legislation is doing a favor to them. So that's why we are working hand in hand with the public sector to make sure that there is a fair.
Okay, as someone who's lived in the UK for quite a long time, I guess when you start thinking about, I want to move to Uganda, I want to buy a house, even if it's just a holiday house, you kind of dread the whole process, because you think it's going to be quite a long process. How easy is it? I mean, how would you make it easy for someone like me who's just don't even know where I want to live, I just want somewhere with a good road, and what's the process? How do I approach your company, and what's the process from A to Z?
No, Alice, that's a very good one, because I agree with you that the information, one of the problems we have in Africa is information accessibility. The information is there, but it's scattered in different offices. Now, what Avasts we have done is that being 6 years in the market, we know where to go. We know where the information is. Two is that, of course, I must warn you that there are a lot of fraudsters because of lack of legislation. Clear. So you either go to a company A, and then they know what to do, or you go to company B and you're screwed. So at Avasts, what we do is that we don't, for example, trade in land, but we have an association where we belong to. And that association is very important because it knows who deals in land and who deals in management of property and who does this and that. So I would advise everyone else. I mean, I'm part of the association, and at the same time, I have to know that it's better to approach us, and then we can direct you where to go. Two, if you have gotten a piece of land, don't do the right things by doing what we call title search. Go to the Ministry of Lands, because now there is a land information system. By press of a button, you will get to know whether this is a genuine title or it's not. Especially, at least within the CBD, that's Kampala district area. So that we know it's in place. Then the other thing is, of course, don't be quick at closing transactions, because this is a friend and he tells you I know and so forth. Deal with companies which are registered, such that when there is anything which happens, you have a fallback position. So
basically, companies like yours, if we come to you, you're able to advise us from process to process. Is this correct?
Yes.
So you're able to say, this is the place to go and this is what you need to do. So, even if we're far away in London or wherever, Netherlands or wherever, that we can sit comfortably and trustworthy, knowing that you are, dealing with situations, you've got the right advice.
Alice, that's true. I know trust has been an issue for our African markets and Uganda in particular, but of course some of us, we have shared these problems, so that's why we think trust is the most important thing. We manage properties, and of course we handle the client's money. We transfer it to their accounts. Our business relies on trust. And if we spoil that trust, we have no business. And that's what we want to do, to make sure that even in the UK, that's what happens. You go to the door of the company, what you only have is trust. You pay your money, the service is going to be delivered to you. Why not in Uganda? It's possible. So it just needs the mentality to be changed, and people who are doing business to look at long term, other than quick back, and which of course backfires in a minute. So I think that's what we're doing.
And I think one main thing that we're really interested in the UK, if you've got properties in Kampala, really is the property management, because when you're away, you leave your property to your family or your friends and you think, oh, it's going to be fine, I'm going to get my money every week, and there's always something. So just tell us a little bit more about what Avasts does in terms of property management and getting the rent and that kind of thing. What's their process?
Now, our philosophy at Avasts Housing Limited is that if you have invested in your property, 2, you are far away. 3, you need someone who you are not a relative to. 3, not having any third-party interests to take care of your property, such that there is a contract. Now, what Avasts we do is that there is a contract, and if anyone breaches that contract, then he's liable. What we do is, of course, is very clear that we do, for example, rent collection. The rent must be collected, and it should be on the accounts of the owner within a certain period of time. 2, if there are maintenance issues, our job is to inspect the building. And once the building is inspected, we do a reporting procedure to the owner. We say, look, the roof is leaking. Now, in our opinion, it should be fixed. And here are the number of quotations that of people who can fix it. Now, we usually write ourselves on email, Skype calls, and telephone. So we don't do anything without the authorization of the owner. So we are in touch with the owner, constant on email, on Skype, on whatever it can, to make sure that we have this thing moving. Now, or we should not increase because the cost of living is not the best we shall do. Because the point is to reduce the vacancy rates of the property, such that the person does not lose the money, the owner, and as well as we don't lose the tenant. So the other thing is to make sure that there is landlord-tenant relationship, because a tenant is a customer, as well as a landlord is a service provider. Now the two must be in harmony. If that doesn't work, it means either the landlord loses or the tenant loses. So for us, Avasts Housing Limited, we manage that process and make sure that all those things work. 2, or maybe last, but the big one, we advise on the general market, the legislation issues, the tax issues, because URA tomorrow will come and clamp a new tax on property. Case Kampala Capital Store Authority will come around with another issue. So we make sure that that information, even though you are away from home, it's on your computer. Because you have a property in that market, and therefore you should have that information. So I think that's what we do generally. And then at the end of the day, one client refers to the next. saying, look at these guys, they're doing a good job. Because we know relatives, they collect the rent, maybe they spend it,
Yes.
and then they tell you, no, the tenant left 5 years ago. When the guy is in the house.
Okay, that's very good. People in London and abroad, please. Avasts Housing Limited, the property management. You can sit at home and be comfortable that you will get your rent every week because they'll manage your properties. Now, tell us about the mortgages and so on. Can you advise us on that? How easy is it? How do people from the diaspora, how accessible are they to getting mortgages from banks here in Uganda?
Now, my take on this is that in respect to the Western countries, the mortgage is expensive in Uganda.
Expensive?
Yes. The interest rates are higher.
Okay.
But the point is, before picking the mortgage or anything, you need to calculate the return on investment. Because the capacity to pay must be in balance before you get the money. Otherwise, you work for the bank. Simple. I'm not discouraging anyone to go to the bank.
Yeah.
But the return on investment calculation must be very important. And that's where we come in with a market and feasibility studies. Now, before you put up a project and go to the bank A or B, whatever, you should first have all the factors that come up with the project complete. I can tell you today it's 22% or 20%, 19% interest rate. But if you can be able to get mortgage from the UK, if, for example, you have a citizenship in the UK, and be able to justify those figures, I think you're better off. But it's accessible, the banks are here, the money is there, and so forth. But you have to do it right. Otherwise, I know there are a lot of now foreclosures coming up on the market because of the previous situation. We have corruption scandals, we have kind of tied all the liquidity in place and so forth. So you get all these issues hitting you up. But the worst you can do in life is that you're investing in your property for the rest of your life, because usually people make the biggest investment they make in their life is real estate. And then the bank has to foreclose that property. That would be the most baddest thing you'll ever have in your life. So the other option to look at is the development banks, because development banks usually have a lower interest rate than commercial banks. So there are options, because they are like the IFC, the International Finance Corporation. They give long-term loans. There is the African Development Bank, there is the African Development Bank. There are some institutions like the FM or Financial Development Company. So before you get a mortgage, you need to dig through all this spectrum.
Your research.
Yes. And Avasts can help you to do that if you want. But two, if you can do it yourself, better trade well. Because buying money is the same as buying bread on your table. You go to the supermarket, you say, oh, this is $2, this is £2.
Yeah.
I will take the one of £1.
Yes, of course.
Deal.
Okay, so what about the short rental? Do you do short rentals at Avasts? Or for those who are coming on holiday, or do you manage anything like that?
Yeah, we do. We have furnished apartments. Some people in the diaspora, what they've done is that they have furnished their places, because these guys sometimes they use these ones as their home.
Yes, when they're here.
At the same time, when they are not here, they can fetch it for them money. Yeah. So we have that kind of arrangement. We have some apartments of that nature. Furnished, the guy leaves his things. Actually, we have a good scenario one day is that the guy has a 3-bedroom apartment. He locked one room, stored his old things, and left a few, and there are 2 bedrooms available for rent. So,
well, I mean, I think that's a great situation for someone like me if I'm coming just for maybe a month or 2 months, and I don't want to stay at my mom's or my family house and just need my own space. But I just think maybe we're not aware of that, in the diaspora. We're not too aware of what's available for us. I mean, what other real estate or what other accommodation opportunities are there for people?
No, it's a good deal. You have a peace of mind, you have a home back home. 2, you can fetch money with it when you're away. The idea is we come with at Avasts, we make an arrangement, we take an audit of all what you have left in the house, spoons, 10 cups, 3, you know, and then whenever we have person short term, comes and stays, and that money is on your account. But we have to be mindful of the location. Location for furnished apartments is very critical. Because a person to live in a furnished apartment, these are the guys who have come in, they don't prefer to stay in a hotel, they feel they should remain in a furnished apartment which is more homely, but they want to be in the proximity to the center. So accessibility of other services where they can have meetings with their colleagues or their friends, they have come here for a business for 2-3 weeks and so forth. They want the location to be within a certain range.
Yes, I see.
If a house is built properly, it can remain life
Yes.
50 years in this
Yeah.
spot without needing you to be every day following what's going on, as long as you're a good market. That's
Fantastic advice. Now, last, before we go, just give us your 5 objectives, company objectives of Avasts Housing Limited. You know, what are your top objectives for the next coming years? As a real estate company, as a property management, as a, you know, just as Avasts Housing.
Yeah, number one is customer satisfaction. That's key for us because, again, we exist here because of the customer.
Yeah.
If we can have a customer, then we're moving. Number two, it costs value for the shareholders of the company. That makes us, you know, create value to make sure that the company sustains its service. Number three, of course, human resource. You can see our company, I think we are trying to mix up the staff, both local and international, to make sure that our clients living abroad actually expect the same service they experience on the other side. So the mix of our staff is very important.
That's very important.
You can see our staff now. We have the Dutch people there. We had the Polish guys there. We have now the Ugandans. So we want to have it that way, so that we have good customers. The other thing is, of course, being able to advise our clients very well, so that tomorrow it doesn't backfire on us, that we gave them advice and never for them. So with that, I think we'll be able to grow slowly, step by step.
Excellent. I really think that's fantastic advice from Mr. Vincent Agaba of Avasts Housing Limited. You're watching Uganda Vision on BENtv. Thank you.
Well, you've heard it from the gentleman himself. As I was saying before, Banange, you know, company siya bichupuli company ya wesigwa. But we didn't your centers affair. I want to trusting a car. So this is the company that will actually maintain your property. They will look for the tenants, but they will also act as the landlord and make sure your rent is in the bank account. So mubakubire mwogere nabo ebintu bitambule bulungi. Coming up next is Hostel, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
So you're now seducing that low-class guy you want me not to mix with, huh?
You should